Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with jazz saxophonist, composer, and educator David Detweiler. He opened up about his latest 2021 CD, Astoria Suite. It began as a series of individual compositions, moments of beauty, observation, and reflection brought about by his newfound perspective on life. He was born in Houston, Texas, and attended the High School for the Performing and Visual Arts there. He has had a handful of albums as a leader and stays quite busy. These days, he is also an associate professor of jazz saxophone at Florida State University. Get to know him.
Thanks for taking a minute out.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure. Yeah.
Astoria Suite. I wanted to kind of talk about your latest CD and about it coming out during a pandemic and kind of your general feelings of all of that.
The CD was recorded in actually May of 2019, so it's sort of been in the can a little while, obviously way before any of this was even happening. Yeah, it just circumstances. It just took a while to get out, and then by the time it looked like, I was talked to Nick Finzer at Outside In Records, about getting the CD out, and then, of course, the pandemic happened. But I still wanted to go forward with it. I'm sure you've heard from other people, but I mean, the main thing is, you can't tour, right?
Yeah.
That's sort of like, that's sort of off the table right now. So, which is a little disappointing, but otherwise, I don't really feel it's been, too impacted too much because of the pandemic, because we can still get it out to everybody, but hopefully I'll be able to do something, here shortly, this year, I hope. It looks, if things keep going in a positive direction, yeah.
Well, the album is a series of individual compositions brought on by newfound perspectives. Talk to me a little bit about how all of that came together for you.
Yeah, so there's eight songs on the record. The Astoria Suite is four songs, okay? And that sort of came together, I wrote most of that music while I was living in Astoria, New York. Long story short, I'd gone to grad school, actually here at Florida State University, and my wife and I moved back to New York. Just got back and wrote a lot of music, and I sort of had it for a while, a few years, and was deciding what to do with it, because some of the tunes have some harmonic ideas that are similar throughout each tune, some harmonic ideas, some that I use for each tune. Anyway, I was talking to the pianist Harold Danko, and I said, man, I have this music, I don't know what to do. I'm not exactly sure what I want to do with it. It's like some of the tunes are a little similar. I think not that you can really necessarily tell, but I knew, So he's like, man, why don't you just make it a suite? I was like, okay, well, that's a good idea. So, so I had these four tunes, and then I had the opportunity to record and finally get it out. The other tunes on the record, I just have sort of to fill out the record. There are a couple of compositions that I wrote, and then two compositions by my friend Kevin Jones, who's a colleague of mine here at Florida State.
So everything began for you in Houston. Talk to me a little bit about your childhood and kind of how jazz became your life.
From Houston, Texas, there's a lot of jazz happening there. I was fortunate to, participate in jazz ensembles in middle school. My middle school, it was called a stage band back then, so I participated in that. And then I went to a performing arts high school called HSPVA, and that was under the direction of Dr. Robert Morgan. He's since retired, but the program's still going strong. That was a great program. That sort of set me on my path, really, to sort of pursue music and jazz in particular, because that sort of really got you ready to go to the next level and to pursue jazz, like at a college level or even professional level, So I was playing gigs. By the time I was a junior and senior, I was playing gigs out in Houston already, and getting that experience. Since there's been there's a lot of guys from that high school actually out on the scene now, like Jason Moran and Robert Glasper and Walter Smith, to name a few, So it's definitely was a hotbed, if you will, for jazz, for young students wanting to learn jazz, and it's still going strong today. Yeah, so I was definitely fortunate for that. There was always some like summer jazz workshops during the summer. Also, I participated in, and I was definitely fortunate to be a part of that.
What was the first live jazz show you ever saw that really made you think that was something you want to do with your life?
Yeah, I can remember this very vividly. I don't know if I guess you could say this was the first show like with a pro, a pro band that I really remember. And I remember very distinctly. I was in I think ninth grade, I believe. But at any rate, so Michael Brecker had just released his first record under his name. Just the album was just called Michael Brecker. I think that was 1987. He had a group. He was touring, and he came through Houston. And he had a group there. I don't think it was exactly the guys on the record. I think he had I think Mike Stern was playing guitar instead of Pat Metheny. But anyway, it was, I saw that. I asked my dad to take me to that, obviously I was underage, so, it was out at a club, so my dad took me. I mean, I was blown away by that record already, but hearing Brecker live, for the first time, I had heard him. I've subsequently moving to New York, I had heard him live, a few times. But that first time, yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing, and the things he was playing on the saxophone is unimaginable back then. It's still hard now, but
Yeah.
So that really blew me away. But yeah, seeing Brecker live when I was like 13 or 14 really was amazing.
What do you look forward to the most about being a musician every day?
I consider myself very fortunate to be teaching here at Florida State University. There's such a great, this has a very strong jazz program here, and some great colleagues here. So really, I get to come to work. I get to teach jazz saxophone, which is pretty amazing in itself. And I get to come to work and come work early. I get to practice, and play with my students every day and teach. I teach jazz improvisation for undergraduate jazz majors, and it's pretty amazing, man. And then I get to record, do some recording and obviously play gigs. Like I said before, hopefully some touring later. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing to be able to. It's like this is not really. I don't consider this, a job really. It's like, so it's pretty awesome to wake up and be able to, play music every day and work with some great students.
So what have you learned over your years on stage and from mentors that you have in turn taught students?
There's a lot of different things. I mean, I guess one thing is just being professional, is one big thing. So that entails showing up on time, being ready to play, knowing the music, and practicing the music, obviously, and being ready to go. I mean, I think, that's so important to, I remember when I was younger, there's like, maybe once or twice I was, a little late to a gig and sort of heard it a little bit, from the band leader. Luckily I never got, some band leaders are like, you're gone, like if that happens. That never really happened to me, luckily. But, it only takes one time really, right? Or if you're hopefully, if you pay attention. So I try to make sure that never happens. So yeah, and just being ready to play the music, and that just means practicing and being ready to perform at a high level. Because so music world, just in general, is very competitive. It's very competitive. So to have a successful career, you have to really want that to happen. And for that to happen, you have to, number one, first and foremost, your instrument, you have to master your instrument. That's what I try to impart, into my students because, they're going to be out there soon, and working. And so that's, those are just a few things that we try to work on. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you miss the most about all this absence of live music?
Man, playing for an audience. It's crazy how much you miss that. Because it's such a normal thing, right? You always playing for people, and then the pandemic hit, and I had a few live stream gigs, where you're playing to nobody. Obviously you're playing, the audience, out there in the cyberspace, but it's definitely a different experience, right? You don't get that feedback from the audience. Actually, I just played a gig like last week here in town, and it was the first gig I had played for actually people in almost close to a year, and it was very spread out. It was very safe. It was in a big open space. It was live streamed as well, but there were some people in the audience, which was pretty amazing. So hopefully it's going to keep trending that way. It's not quite there yet, obviously, because we got a while to go for the vaccine. But yeah, I really miss the audience. First and foremost, I think really miss that audience feedback.
What do you hope we realize when we return to live music? What do you hope that we all get, audience and musician, from this time away?
Hopefully everybody has a newfound perspective about being able to hear live music and how special it is, and how really important it is in our society. I really believe that, and I think, like I was saying before, I think sometimes it's easy to take for granted. It's easy to take for granted, and both on the audience side, because I'm both. I go see shows too. So I'm on both sides. So I think either way, it's easy to take for granted that the music's going to be there, and then when this happened, of course, there's been alternate ways people have been getting music out, but still, there's nothing quite like seeing music live.
Yeah.
Nothing's going to replace that. So I hope this really helps people really appreciate it even more.
So everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your students, your fans, that you're living your life. What's your perception of who you are? Who do you think you are?
My family is very important to me. So, I'm married and I have I have an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old. That's a big part of my life, needless to say, away from music. So, it's important for me, to being a good father and being there and participating in all the activities I can for my kids. And because, as you know, or as you've heard, I don't know if you have kids, but, they grow up fast. You hear that. Everybody tells you that, right? But it's so true.
Yeah.
I mean, my son's 8 already, and I just, that was a blink of an eye, So, yeah. I don't know. I so that's a big part of my life, and then obviously music is as well. And for me on that side, I just want to try to get better. To be a better musician, to be a better saxophone player. That's something I'm always striving for, and study of the music, study of jazz. That's one thing about one great thing about music in general and jazz in particular is the well is so deep. You can keep studying, and you're never going to get to the bottom of the well. Yeah. So I'm just trying to get better every day, really, on that side.
Hey, man, thank you for taking a minute out today for Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
Oh, man, thank you. I really appreciate it. It was great talking to you.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview. We'll give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Florida, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to David for his time, music, and story. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.